So now that the book, you've got the book and you've got the podcast, and now they're kind of in motion. How do you see the two fitting together, or what sort of things are you kind of thinking about or trying to do to make sure that they leverage each other and are not
Yeah.
kind of these siloed entities?
One of the most important and significant developments that have come out of the Edip Experience podcast is our live podcasting, right? Because we work in an industry with lots of conferences, we thought, man, we never have been to a conference where anybody has a podcast there live. So we pitched it to a great friend of ours, a company called Anthology, and they're a big, huge, multi-billion-dollar company. And we got with their team and we said, hey, look, we'll come do it in person. We're going to bring all of our equipment. We're going to sit down and we're going to be at the conference. And you know what happened? Nobody came over to podcast with us. That's what happened on the first day anyway. And then it warmed up and we did 17 podcasts in 3 days and we were publishing them an hour after we recorded them so that people were walking from conference room to conference room, listening to the podcast of their peers while they were going to session. And so I imagine us that when we go to the next conference, to your question about how do we leverage these things together, the book will be there. The book will be there for sale. And because the book is based on our interviews with people in higher ed, we can keynote about the book, we can represent the Edip Experience brand, and have the book there simultaneously. I think that's where the natural synergy was for us, is that, it's kind of like one or the other or both. But if you just want one, you get it. If you want the other, you get it. But if you want both, we'll bring them.
I think that's fantastic. And I'm fascinated by this live podcasting thing. We've done something similar at Traffic and Conversion Summit. It's a big marketing conference. We had a Volkswagen booth, like a Volkswagen the van outfitted with and rigged up with some mics, and it was kind of the cool
That's
thing.
awesome.
And it was really awesome because you were able to, bang out a ton of interviews in a short period of time. Everyone's there. But I'm curious for you guys, how and what was your thought process? Or I'd love for you to hear some of your insights. Or I just think that the concept of going and doing that is, I think there's something really there, and I think it's going to take off in the next little bit, and people are going to see more and more of it.
Yeah, I think so too, right? Because it's just a combination of everything that's cool, right? You go to like you call it a higher ed conference. You go to a conference, sometimes they're not awesome. There's moments, there's boring moments or whatever. What do you do between sessions, right? There's always at these conference, no matter what industry, you go to this session, it has a meeting. And then what do you do in the middle of it? People are walking around, they're talking, whatever. What if in between those sessions, they could stop, they could talk about their experience of at the conference. And then the conference, of course, is getting free testimonials, right? So that's why they want you there, is because you're going to, how was your experience at XYZ? Oh, I love XYZ. So they're getting these walking, breathing testimonials in real time. And the institution, for the people who we interviewed, are getting free marketing for their college, right? So we're not, we were paid to go and podcast, so we'll interview anybody. And so you can be from a small college or a big college or a company, an ed tech company, and we're going to sit down, we're going to ask you about your company, and we're going to talk about what's going on in higher ed, and we're going to give you that experience. And then you sit down and you throw the headphones on and you throw the mic on, right? Hector, isn't there this like, who the heck are these podcasters? Who are all these podcasters that are out there, and how do you do it? I hear that all the time. Like, how do you do this podcasting thing? I'm not hearing you, my friend. You got the old mute button thing going on.
What's funny is that just recording, and now granted it was a Volkswagen van, but it was just a spectacle. People were coming up and taking pictures and recording videos of just the recording. They didn't even know who was in their recording, but it is cool, and it's
the
new
experience. And so
right.
These conferences want you to have a good experience. We had one guy we sat with that first conference that said the best part of the conference was when he came to the podcast, because it was just like this, I don't know, it satisfies your ability to want to be a star a little bit and have your mic time. It's just cool.
Yeah, it gives you your little 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So Joe, this has been really fun. I'm curious, last couple of things here. You have I don't want to say a different audience, but a very niched audience, and one that a lot of people might make excuses about and go, well, my demographic, they're highly educated, they're maybe maybe a little older, they're whatever, right? But you guys have really built a thriving community of people who have figured it out. And so I'm curious what that experience has been like, kind of, seeing this community grow. And if there's any advice for people who are maybe making excuses about, well, my audience is this or my audience is that, because you guys have kind of bucked all those.
Yeah, I mean, I know profile and begin to understand all the different audiences out there, but I will tell you, a higher education audience was very hard to break into. These are, I mean, you think about higher education professionals in universities and colleges, they're not typically podcasting. The demographic of your professors, of your presidents, of your administrators is older, not younger typically. And so we had a really hard time at first, like, breaking into the industry. But we found our diamonds in the rough, people that listen to the podcast, that we're in our demo, that we're passionate about education, that helped us boost our message, and we included them in the process. I like to say we're like a crowdsourced higher education podcast, and we listened to the other ones out there that were not awesome, and we said, how do we make ours more fun? Because if you're going to listen to something, it can't be boring, right? People want to listen because it engages them, so you have to find ways to engage people. And so we thought, how do we do this? Can we play a game in the middle? Higher ed people going to want to play a game? I started something called Higher Ed Word Association in the middle of my podcast, where I literally stop the episode and I say, it's Higher Ed Word Association. I'm going to give you a statement, and you're going to tell me exactly what's on your mind when I say it. So I'll say something like, oh, I don't know, drops, students who drop out of class, what's on your mind? And so right on the spot, the guest has to tell me what comes to mind and elaborate on it. And it just kind of keeps a different type of energy going. I've done, true false questions. I've just kind of broken it up so that I can get a laugh or two out of the audience while I talk about something that's critically important, which is educating our communities. So, I think that's, you got to figure out how to serve your audience in a way that brings more people in. How do you serve your core? How do you bring more people in? And there's a strategy that has to be built around that. It just doesn't happen for no reason.
1, 2, 3. Morning.